episode of the Alumni House podcast. My name is Matt.
I'm the Quacker.
Quacker, how you doing this fine Thursday evening, late Thursday evening?
Yeah, I'm doing good.
Yeah, I had a Wild and Crazy. You remember that show, Wild and Crazy Kids on Nickelodeon?
I can't say I do, but
So it was the first time I ever saw slow motion replay because they called it slow mo. Sorry, I'm having weird mic trouble. Bear with me. They called it slow mo, and it was like these parents and kids would get together and do like weird, like almost like field day type games. I can't believe you don't remember that show. But anyway, yeah, I had a wild and crazy day. So perfect way to wrap up the day with a fresh episode of Alumni House. As we speak, there is one game that we cover on. We'll give you updates as they come in. It's a good game. It's NC State and Wake Forest. It's a rivalry, I think, born mostly out of proximity. It's on commercial right now, but they just started the fourth quarter, and the last time I looked, it was tied at 24. So we'll keep you updated on that as we go. So new season. I know this is week 3, but we're kind of now into our flow. So the way these preview episodes are going to work, we're going to fly through a select handful of games, and then when we do our review on Sunday evenings, we will spend a little bit more time on the games worth spending time on. So, Quacker, you have anything before we jump right in?
Yeah, I mean, we got some news that's come out from the NCAA or the conferences and stuff we cover. So something that Matt and I both, I guess we both kind of missed to start the season, but I guess the day of the Florida State Alabama game, they had a linebacker. He was a freshman named Ethan Pritchard, who was shot in the back of the head. He's in ICU. And they arrested 4 people in connection with the shooting. The police are saying that Ethan was doing nothing wrong. He was in his car dropping off his aunt and some other relatives at their apartment, and they think it's a case of mistaken identity. Now, one thing that Mike Norvell has done it really means a lot for the family is this past week, his father, Earl, was on the sidelines and in the locker room after the game. So he was kind of standing in for his son as a presence on the team until he can rejoin the team. So that was really cool of Norvell to allow them that. We have Mizzou's quarterback, Sam Horn. I want to say Joe Horn. I knew that wasn't right. He was splitting time with quarterback Bo Prabula. Is that how you say that, Matt?
I think it's Prabula. I think
Prabula. So they were splitting time, and he broke his leg on his first play from scrimmage in the first game of the season. Well, they have announced that he is out for the season. It was a broken tibia. He's had surgery, and they don't think he'll recover in time to come back for the season. Alabama expects wide receiver Ryan Williams to play this week against Wisconsin. He missed last week's game with a concussion. They think he's on track for that return. Speaking of that same game, the Badgers quarterback, last name was Edwards. Billy Edwards Jr. is unlikely to play this weekend. They're going to have him travel, but he's facing long odds to play for the game. Sprained his knee. They're listing him as week to week. And then finally, if my computer quit acting up, Central Florida, their offensive line coach, Sean Clark, he was hospitalized today, or it looks like yesterday, with a medical emergency. They don't really list what happened, but he's in stable condition. Sean Clark is in his first season at UCF. He spent the last 5 years at Appalachian State, where he had a winning record. Last year was his first losing season. I would give him a pass for last year because of the hurricane and all the devastation that happened there. That's a tough situation that they had to go through. Me and Matt were talking about this before, and we feel like maybe it had to be something behind the scenes as to why they let him go, because you don't let a winning coach go just for one losing season. So that's all the headlines that we have for this week.
Yeah. All right. So thanks for that, Quacker. And before we jump in, I almost forgot to mention this. Obviously, today is the 24th anniversary of the September 11th attacks. And for most of us that were alive, it was a day that changed the world forever. And we don't ever want to forget that. I was at work today, and there's everyone that I work with was alive and has memories of it, except for one person who is an intern for us who was not alive yet. And it was interesting talking to him about his, the only world he's ever known is a post 9/11 world. And so we're in an interesting time because it was obviously a terrible tragedy, and we want to always take time to remember that every year.
Yeah. It's still evident when you go to the airport just how different it is pre and post 9/11. Because I remember before 9/11, like taking our grandmother back to the airport and being able to walk her to the gate, and you can't do that anymore. You drop them off at the entrance, and that's as far as you can go.
Yeah. Military bases are the same way. I remember it used to be that you could, because I grew up next to a handful of bases. One of them was pretty big. Used to be if you had every service member had a sticker on their windshield that signified their rank, and they would just wave them through, and anybody in the car with them would just go in with them. And since 2001, now for the first year or so, it was a lot more stringent, but since 2001, you have to have ID, and it depends on the level of the base. But some bases still to this day require you to walk into the guard gate and sign in with a sponsor if you're not a service member or clergyman. And if it's a lower security level base, you still have to provide government issued ID for anyone who is over the age of 18. So yeah, it is wild, and we could spend an hour and a half or more talking about all of the crazy things and the positive and the negative and the tragedies. But the main thing is it's important that here at Alumni House that we will not accept forgetting that day. So that's it's a terrible tragedy. But here's the cool thing. These people, these men and women who fought for our freedom in a very tangible way after that did so that we can do things like sit here and talk about sports. So that's really cool. And so with that, let's jump into the games. All right. So like I said, we are going to fly through these this evening. So starting off in Conference USA, we've got the Miners from UTEP. That's the University of Texas El Paso, if you were curious, going to Austin to play the Texas Longhorns. The number 7 Texas Longhorns. So in this game, Texas has a 99% chance of winning, and they are. Let me see here. Where did I lost my?
Look for the line.
I was looking for the line.
40.5 point favorite.
Yeah, I found it as you said it. I had it and then I lost it. But yeah, so they're 40.5 point favorites. Both teams are 1-1. Obviously, very different losses. UTEP lost to Utah State at Utah State for whatever that means. And obviously, Texas lost at Ohio State. So, not a lot to say about this one. We wanted to rep UTEP because they're in Conference USA, but good luck and hope you make it back in one piece.
Right.
I don't want to speak for you, but I assume we're both going to take Texas in this one.
Oh yeah, yeah.
For those of you not watching video, Quacker's face right then was really funny. It was like, how dare you ask me that? Well, I just wanted to make sure. So, yeah. All right. Look for Arch to bounce back in that one. I mean, he obviously bounced back last week, but look for him to continue to bounce back. So, next game, funny story about this next game. So, this is Florida Atlantic going to Florida International. And this April Fool's, or maybe it was last April Fool's, it was either 24 or 25. I saw the coolest April Fool's I've ever seen, and I want it to be true. It will never happen for about 1,000 reasons, but it was I can't remember if it was FAU or FIU that posted it, but it was a fake game announcement that had a picture of an aircraft carrier with a football field on it in the middle of the ocean, and it said battle over the Atlantic, location somewhere in the Atlantic. And I just thought that was really cool, obviously with Florida Atlantic, them both being, close to their respective coasts. And I believe Miami is just right outside of, FIU is right outside of Miami, I think. But yeah, so I thought that was cool. So this game is going to put a Conference USA team in Florida International against an American team, Florida Atlantic. What are you looking for in this one between the two, for lack of a better term, directional schools from the state of Florida?
Yeah, I'm looking for, it's a 2.5 point line for Florida International. I'm looking for a close game. I think this is a pretty good rivalry between the two. I mean, they've been conference foes before. And in fact, I think just recently Florida Atlantic moved from Conference USA to the American. I wanted to say Atlantic. I knew that wasn't right. The American Conference, and for a while, FAU's been the better program. I think they've kind of taken a little bit of a step back. I think FAU can win the game. I don't know how much of a home field advantage Pitbull Stadium provides for FIU.
I forgot it was called that.
Yeah, I saw it and I was trying not to laugh when I saw that, but I mean, with the 2.5 point line, this is a toss-up game. I think it's gonna be close. I'll pick Florida National just because the home field advantage, whatever advantage they have. They don't have to travel. I mean, that doesn't always mean anything, but they'll have their student section. They'll be rowdy. So maybe that'll make a difference for them in the game.
Yeah, I'm gonna take the Owls in this one. So I'm with you. I think I'm looking for a really good game. I think it'll be fun. It's a natural rivalry, so should be a lot of fun. And that game is at 6 p.m. Eastern. So looks like there may be some weather, thunderstorms in the area, but I grew up in Florida, so half the time those are 10 minutes and then they're done. So hopefully it won't mess up the game.
What's the distance from Boca Raton to Miami? Like mileage wise, is it pretty drivable for?
I don't know exactly. Hold on one second, because I mean it's not far. But what did you say, Boca Raton to what?
Miami.
So I don't think FIU is in Miami. I think they're right outside of Miami.
Well, it's got Miami, Florida listed as the location for the stadium.
Oh, maybe they are in Miami. I thought they were just near Miami, but you may be right. So let's just see here real quick, because now you got me curious. Oh yeah, so they are right in Miami. Looks like it is 55 miles, about a 57-minute drive with light traffic. So
Oh
um,
yeah.
yeah, not far at
If,
all. Now, one thing in looking at the map, you're going through uh, to get from Florida Atlantic to FIU. You are going through Fort Lauderdale, which is where a lot of the Miami citizens live. You're going through Hollywood, Florida. You're going through. You're going adjacent to South Beach, which is a community, Hialeah. So it's probably it says it's 57 minutes. I don't trust Google. That's a very busy part of Florida. I would say it's probably closer to 2 hours, but 55 miles.
yeah. All right. So if you're an FAU fan, you can get a ticket for $17. Drive on down, support your team, make it loud for a nice even split stadium. Have fun. This will be a good game to go to.
I'm laughing because if you don't listen to our NFL podcast, Quacker has just discovered the ticket prices on ESPN.com, and man, if he doesn't love them, he loves these ticket prices. So more power to you. I just think that is so funny. All right, so we're gonna keep moving right along and head over to the American, where we've got an interesting game because the number 13 Oklahoma Sooners, and more importantly, the traditional college blue blood Oklahoma Sooners, are traveling to Temple. Okay, so they are going to. Well, let me back up. They're not actually traveling to Temple. They're Temple. It's a home game for Temple, but it's at Lincoln Financial. So, I don't know if that's just because it's a way bigger game than Temple normally plays, or
I think that's actually where they play most of their games. Is Lincoln
really?
Financial.
I didn't.
I think so.
I knew they were in Philadelphia. I did not know that they played in the Eagles Stadium regularly. But that shows how much I know about Temple.
I'm not 100% sure on that, but I am fairly certain that that's where they play.
I mean, you may be right. I don't keep up with them a lot, but I'm checking just to be sure. So it looks like, yep, you're right. They play at Lincoln Financial. Interesting.
Okay.
And that's
early kickoff.
What's that?
It's an early kickoff.
Yeah.
So that's
and this is unique too because Temple is a not a very they don't have a huge fan base and there are not very many college teams that play in pro stadiums. Obviously, Miami does. They didn't used to, but they have for quite a few years now. But Miami's different than Temple, so that's interesting that little old Temple plays at Lincoln Financial. But anyway, so not a lot of drama in this one. I don't even know that it's necessarily worth talking a whole lot about. I'm gonna assume that we're both gonna take Temple in this game.
Yeah, the biggest thing is, do you have Oklahoma covering 23 and a half?
I said I'm going to assume we're both taking Temple, and you said yeah. So are you taking Temple? Is that what's happening?
Oh no, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I've got them covering. So the line is 23 and a half. That's easy. They cover that without breaking a sweat. Just looking at Temple is 2-0. But the games that they've won were, get ready for this, they beat UMass and they beat Howard.
That's a couple powerhouses right there.
Yep, that's what I'm saying. And are those both FCS schools? I can't keep track of who moves up anymore.
Howard is a HBCU.
Okay.
So I don't really know what they're considered.
Pretty sure all HBCUs are FCS or the majority of them. None of them are FBS. I know that. But UMass, I feel like either was talking about at one point moving up, or they did move up and then moved down, or maybe they're still up. I don't know. Doesn't really matter. The point is, Temple's going to lose this game. It's probably not going to be pretty. And it is, as Quacker said, it's an early kick. It starts at 12 p.m. Eastern. That is 9 o'clock a.m. Pacific time, in case you were wondering. So, all right.
It's on ESPN too, so it's there for the whole world to see too. They can't hide from it. It's not on like some Plus channel or something like that. It's one of the main channels. So
well, the good news for Temple is I don't think they're going to have to hide, because no offense to them, I don't know how many people are going to tune in to watch that game who aren't Oklahoma or Temple fans.
Right.
Because there are some other compelling games around then. So, all right. So let's move to the big game with an American representative for this weekend, and this is an intriguing game. All right. So we've got number 18 USF headed to Miami, or if you want to get technical, since we were just looking at the map, they're actually going to Miami Gardens, which is outside of Miami, to play the Hurricanes. All right. So let me talk about a couple of things, just read off a couple of stats. So Miami's a 17.5-point favorite. I think that's probably about right, probably where I would put it, close to. 72.2% chance to win the game. It's a 4:30 kick at Hard Rock Stadium in Miami Gardens. Same weather as FAU, so scattered thunderstorms, looks like 84 degrees. So there's a couple schools of thought, and this is one of the few games we're going to spend a few more minutes on because it's a little more intriguing. So there is the USF woke everybody up last week when they beat Florida. Miami's not going to overlook them. There is the less likely, but still possible, potential that USF is legit and they are going to come to play no matter what Miami does. And then there is the they just caught Florida on a week where Florida just was terrible, and Miami's going to take them to the woodshed. So I tend to think it's kind of in the middle of the first and third options. Like I think that Miami will be alert, but I think USF will come to play. I think Miami wins by 14, 16 points, maybe by way of like a late score. I feel like this is one of those games Miami leads the whole game, or maybe USF gets an early score, but Miami leads the majority of the game. USF hangs around, and then, I don't know, somewhere middle fourth quarter, Miami gets a field goal or a touchdown to make it a 2-score game, and that's all she wrote. That's kind of my feeling. What do you think about this one?
I'm tempted just to pick South Florida, but winning a top 25 matchup 3 weeks in a row, it's really tough for any program to do. South Florida's going up against a really good Miami team. Carson Beck is playing like the Carson Beck from 2 years ago. So I'm taking Miami, but I think it's going to be close. I think Miami wins by 10 or less. I don't think they should ever stretch it. I think South Florida's in it to the very end. What's Byron Brown? He's proven to be the real deal, or at least in the first couple weeks he has.
Right.
He's a load to take down for a defensive player. Unless you're a defensive lineman or a sturdy-built linebacker, a cornerback is going to have a tough time taking him down because he's 6'3", like 215, 220. He's just a big, thick dude that, he's got an accurate arm, and when he gets going, he's hard to bring down. So I think it's close, but I do think Miami pulls it out.
Yeah, I don't hate that, and I'll be honest with you. I feel like I'm picking Miami, obviously, like I just said earlier. But it would not surprise me if South Florida found a way to win this game. Well, let me back up. It would surprise me a little bit. It wouldn't surprise me a lot.
Yeah.
I feel like there's not a great chance South Florida wins this game, but I think there is a chance. And I'll tell you, this is very interesting because the people cheering harder than anybody for South Florida to win this game are the people who are firmly in Billy Napier's camp. And we'll talk about this more later, but should South Florida beat Miami and do what you said and win 3 consecutive top 10 games, I think that starts to shift the narrative for people with Billy Napier. I'm not saying that the reality is that it's different, but I think it shifts the narrative,
Right.
But that's, take that with a grain of salt because they've got to actually pull that upset first. So, yeah, both taking Miami. So far, we've only got one difference. I've got FAU. Quacker's got FIU. Most of these games I think we're going to be pretty similar on. All right, so moving on to the Sun Belt. Interesting game. We've got a Sun Belt team going to Blacksburg to play the ACC representative Virginia Tech Hokies. Okay, so this is interesting. All right. I'm a little. Hang on one second. I want to look at one thing. Okay, so Virginia Tech's a 6.5-point favorite at home. They are 0-2. Old Dominion is 1-1. But listen to this because this is interesting. So Virginia Tech got beat. They were competitive for 3 quarters against South Carolina, lost on a neutral site, not super close in the end. I mean, well, it was close. It was a 13-point game, but they weren't real competitive towards the end. They lost it to, at that point, number 13, South Carolina. Then they lost to Vanderbilt, which everybody knows Clark Lee and Diego Pavia have got something cooking down there in Nashville. But they lost at home, and they lost bad. It was 44-20. Old Dominion, on the other hand, played at number 20 Indiana and lost 27-14. Now, I think most of us feel that Indiana is probably a paper tiger this year, but we don't know that yet. All we know is that they were really good last year and they made the playoff. So
yeah.
Then they played North Carolina Central and won 54-6. So they took care of business against their FCS opponent. I almost feel like the line, because everyone knows that the lines are based on where the money is going during the week. I almost feel like the line on this game is based almost all on name recognition more than anything else. The matchup predictor has got Vatek with a 65.6% chance of winning. I don't really see them winning this game. I think Old Dominion wins it. Now, I do think that this coach is definitely fighting for his job, so I do think it's not impossible for them to come out with something to prove, and they definitely have better athletes, so there's no question about that. But the question is, can these athletes perform as a team well enough to beat Old Dominion? So I'm going to take Virginia Tech. I am about 50.1% confident in that.
All right. So it's played in Lane Stadium at night, 7 p.m. kickoff Eastern time. So at 6:55, the lights are going to go out in Lane Stadium. Inner Sandman's going to be blasting over the PA system. The crowd's going to be going wild. Team's going to come out pumped up. They're going to be fired up. And I think they're going to lose. I think Old Dominion wins the game.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm pretty well split on this. I am just basing it based solely on better athletes at a power school, coach and staff fighting for their jobs is really the only thing.
Yeah.
And if this were at Old Dominion, I would in a landslide, I would pick Old Dominion. But
yeah, I mean, I've seen Old Dominion beat them more than once. And in this rivalry game, I have a soft spot for Virginia Tech. I was always a big Frank Beamer fan. I thought he was one of those coaches. He was just easy to pull for. You know, shoot, his son is easy to pull for. You know, Shane Beamer is just he's just a younger version of his dad. You know, and they both seem like the kind of coach that you want to send your son to go play for, not only because he's a good coach, but because he's going to make them a better man. And so seeing Virginia Tech fall off like they have since he's retired, that sucks. But at the same time, it's tough to replace a legend. And that's what he was there. I mean, Virginia Tech was kind of like Florida State before Bobby Bowden. They didn't really have a lot of tradition. Then Frank came along and kind of built them to what they were. And unlike Florida State, who's been able to sustain it for the most part, I mean, they've had some down years, but they've also had some high ups. Mm-hmm. Virginia Tech has kind of fallen off, and it's tough for them to rebound. It's they haven't found the answer yet.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's certainly been a while. So all right. So in this one, I'm taking Virginia Tech, and Quacker has got Old Dominion. All right. So we're just gonna pick this game. We're not gonna talk a lot about it because this is kind of the battle of mediocrity. But we've got East Carolina traveling down to Conway to play Coastal Carolina. 7.5 point line on this one. East Carolina is the favorite and 79.8% chance of winning. Coastal has struggled a lot this year. Obviously, they got blown out by Virginia to start the season, and then they beat Charleston Southern a whopping 13-0. East Carolina took care of business against Campbell, lost a fairly close game or a touchdown game, 24-17 at NC State. So, any drama here? We're both picking the Pirates.
The only drama is going to be the concession stand for the Coastal fans. Outside of that, yeah, East Carolina's winning this one pretty easily.
All right. So on to a more intriguing game than that. A game that I'm excited to watch. I'm not excited to talk about it because I don't have a stinking clue what's going to happen. But hold on 1 second. All right. So, sorry, I got my wires crossed for a second. We've got another rivalry game. We have got the Pittsburgh Panthers and the... No, sorry. I confused myself. I apologize. We do have a rivalry game involving Pittsburgh, but we're not there yet. Number 12 Clemson going to Atlanta to play the Ramblin' Wreck from Georgia Tech. Everybody knows this isn't your mama's Georgia Tech. They're a different animal than they used to be. But I don't have a clue who this Clemson team is yet. I think we thought after watching them against LSU that they were good, just not quite as elite as LSU. But I think the narrative changed a little bit when both LSU and Clemson struggled. But I think that could be just chalked up to both teams, had emotional highs playing a huge game to start the season. Mm-hmm. A little bit of a letdown. But I don't know because we don't really know who Clemson is. Like, we have a better idea of who LSU is than Clemson. But again, in week 3, you don't really have a great idea about who anybody is because most teams to this point, unless you're USF, has played, a garbage team and a great team. So, or, a better team. Georgia Tech is a 55.9%, has a 55.9% chance to win, but they are the underdog by 3.5. So I'm going to let you go first on this one. You just go ahead. I'm curious about your thoughts.
Watching Georgia Tech last year, in that Georgia Tech-Georgia game, they took them to, 7 overtimes? 8 overtimes? Whatever it was. I think it was 7.
Was it that many? I thought it was like 3 or 4, but whatever it was, it didn't have any business happening.
Yeah. Georgia Tech. I mean, they really impressed me. I don't know how many players they had returning off of last year's team, but they're
Oh,
closer
you're
to the
right. It
1998.
was 8 overtimes.
Okay,
I
so
knew it was
it's
a
set
lot. I
the
didn't remember it being that many though.
yeah it's set the record for overtimes then,
Yeah, that's
right?
not a real
Because
record though. Once they started that stupid go for two in the third overtime and beyond, or whatever it is, like
yeah,
I don't recognize that.
yeah. But this Georgia Tech is probably closer to the 1990s Georgia Tech when they won on that national championship in 90 91. I don't remember exactly what year. Um, and Clemson, they seem like they're closer to what they were when Trevor Lawrence was there. Last week was a bit of a struggle, but again, like we were just saying, you know, you kind of have a very emotionally charged game the week before. But then you're coming in against a lesser opponent, and it's sometimes it's hard for the players to get up, even though they know that they need to. It's hard for them to get up for the game, and they kind of sleepwalk through it. It felt like that's what they did. It felt like what LSU did too. They just kind of sleepwalked through the game. They did enough to win the game. I'm picking Clemson to win it, but I think it's close. Like this 3.5, it actually feels like it's probably appropriate. I mean, like Clemson wins by a field goal. Maybe on the final drive. It's one of those where I can see this going into overtime, and them having to go for the 2-point conversions, which we both absolutely just love. So yeah, I'm picking Clemson, but I'm picking it close.
Yeah, in case you didn't catch that, that was sarcasm. At least I think it was. I hate teams that
Yeah,
go for 2-point conversions in situations like that. I think it robs their team, and I think it robs the fans of a competitive game. My high school missed the state championship in Florida last year because they were playing a far superior team, and instead of tying the game in the second overtime to go to the third, they chose to go for two, and the play was blown up, and you're putting your whole season on one play. So, yeah, I have no love for that at all. So just want to clarify for the fans. Yeah, all right. So Quackers got Clemson. I'm taking the Yellow Jackets, man. I'm taking the Yellow Jackets. I'm nervous about it because I do think Dabo is not done, and I think he knows there's some pressure, not like getting fired pressure, but just pressure. But there's just something about this Georgia Tech team. Like, let me back up. There's something about this Georgia Tech program in recent years. It's an early game. I feel like the Georgia Tech players are less likely for that to bother them because they play at Georgia Tech. Clemson, they're elite athletes playing at a top program. I think that's more likely to bug them. So I think I'm gonna go with the home team. So we'll see what happens in that, but it's gonna be a fun game to watch because I'm really really interested. All right, so another one we're going to talk about just real quick because I don't think there's a lot to this game other than it is the backyard brawl, and of course we are talking about Pittsburgh versus West Virginia. So Pitt is a 7.5-point favorite. Matchup predictors got them at 59.4%. And Pittsburgh is 2-0 now. They beat Duquesne 61-9 and Central Michigan 45-17. So, take that for what you will. They're 2-0, I guess. West Virginia, on the other hand, beat Robert Morris 45-3 and lost to Ohio, which they only lost by a touchdown. But if you're West Virginia, I think losing to Ohio is not acceptable. So, no drama here. I'm picking Pitt to win the game. I don't have a lot to say about it. I think that's it. I think Pitt wins. I don't think it's close.
Yeah, this is Rich Rod's first backyard brawl since what was it, 07? was his last year at West
Sounds about
Virginia the
right.
first
Something like
time.
that.
Yeah. I welcome back. You're fixing to get punched in the mouth a lot, and Pittsburgh's going to walk out with an easy win. Um, you know, maybe he gets it back rolling in a couple of years, but as for right now, Pittsburgh is a more established program. I think they win this one and win it easily.
Yep. All right. So not too much drama there. We've both got the Panthers winning that game. So, all right. So for our next game, we're not going to talk a ton about this game because Quacker and I sort of agreed that we there's not a lot to talk about because all the storylines have been exhausted. But of course, I am talking about the Gators headed to Death Valley to play LSU. I heard somebody say this week they were talking about the game. They're like, "Oh yeah, well, I guess they consider it a rivalry or something." But I will tell you that I have a lot of family in Mississippi and Louisiana. A lot of family who are, loyal to Florida. I have a lot of family that are loyal to Auburn. But for the context of this game, LSU and Florida is a rivalry. There's no might be or there's no asterisks. It's a rivalry. But what's interesting about this rivalry, and I feel like most fans would agree to, this is it's a unique rivalry in that the home team loses a lot because that's interesting because they play in two of the toughest places to play. Now LSU has had better success in Baton Rouge in this game than Florida has in the Swamp recently, but there have been trends where it was the other way around. But I think I know most Florida and LSU fans would agree that this is a rivalry every year, but it's a rivalry that the teams and the fans typically respect the other school and the other program. And that doesn't mean they're not going to get chippy on the field, but like what I mean is like it's not like Alabama, Auburn where they hate each other 365 days a year. Typically, when you had the old divisions, I felt like Florida and LSU kind of mirrored one another from the other division. Two much stronger programs, or two of the top programs in the SEC. Great places to play. Always had great defenses. Now, obviously, LSU's is a lot better than Florida's this year. So that's the exciting part about it to me. And it's interesting because anytime LSU's playing at home at night, it's a big deal. I think the one time it doesn't matter is when they play Florida. And I've talked about this a lot. I don't think that Oregon or LSU or Florida or Texas A&M get real shook when they play in stadiums that are intimidating because they also play in stadiums that are intimidating. And when I say intimidating, I'm not talking about fake intimidating like Athens or Neyland. I'm talking about real stadiums. And I mean that because people confuse the fact that, and we've talked about this a lot, that they confuse the fact that if your team is good, that means you have a tough place to play. No, you're playing a tough team at a big stadium. You never heard Bryant-Denny, you never heard Athens, you never heard Neyland when these teams were slogging through parts of the 90s and 2000s. You didn't even hear Bryant-Denny until probably 2015. That was almost 10 years into Saban. So I say all that to say this game is really interesting. I told Quacker last night when we were kind of doing our production meeting for this episode, I feel like there are four very distinct possibilities in this game. LSU can blow Florida out, which I feel like is probably the majority of people, the highest percentage of people believe that's what will happen. I also think LSU could win a close one. I can see Florida winning a close one, and I could see Florida blowing LSU out. Now, hear me out. What I mean by that is not that I feel like Florida is this great team and LSU's not, but we just talked about it. We don't really know who Clemson is. LSU kind of slogged through their game last week, as did Florida, obviously, because they lost. But what if USF's really good and Florida was overlooking them, which is there's no excuse for that. But if that's the case, and Florida, because Florida has a playoff caliber roster, the question is, do they have a playoff caliber game plan? And I think if you look at it on face value, you think, well, Billy Napier doesn't. But he's like, typically, I would say like 75% of his big games, he's got a really solid plan for it. And his team is really prepared. Now, the other 25% are dumpster fires. But Brian Kelly isn't too far off from that. You know, I feel like he's got a better percentage, but I don't know that it's a lot better, right, in terms of that kind of like anecdotal stat. So all I'm going to say is I'm going to pick LSU to win the game, but I'm picking LSU to win the game because I think that, unlike last year, I think I'm afraid that the locker room is probably gone for Florida after last week.
I think so.
Now, I don't know that. I have seen nothing to indicate that. I just have a feeling that that's the case. But don't be surprised if we come back and we're talking about something else, because I just feel like anything can happen in this game. Because I said it last week. Florida's got a top 5 offensive line. They've got, if not the best running back tandem in the country, it's right there in the top 3 or 4. They've got very solid young receivers, one of which we have not seen yet. And they have a future Heisman candidate in DJ Lagway, who looked really bad last week. Does he bounce back? Does he look awesome next week? I don't know. Or this coming week? I don't know. So the thing is, the Jimmies and Joes are there for Billy. It's which Billy are we going to get? Because Billy's been really great on the sidelines in Gainesville. He's been really bad. Ironically, some of his best games have been road games against big teams. So I'm going to take LSU. I'm going to take LSU not to cover. They're 7.5-point favorites. It's going to be hot. That doesn't matter. Both of these schools basically live in, like, you know, the Amazon. So
yeah.
I don't think that matters to either team. LSU's a 7.5-point favorite. I'm going to take them by 3.
Okay. So we got the matchup of two of the best uniforms in college football. LSU's yellow helmets and pants and their white jerseys, and Florida with their orange helmet and their all blues, right? I mean,
not
like
wearing the
the
all
orange
blues this year. I saw that they're actually wearing white pants for this game.
Okay.
Which I think is the first time, because I think probably in the last 12 or 13 years, because I think Florida has worn the all blues against LSU every year except when they wear the orange jerseys, because they also would wear the orange jerseys against LSU sometimes. Sometimes with white pants, sometimes with orange. But yeah, so they're wearing their traditional home uniform for this game. Not sure what the decision, what the factors were in that decision. I just happen to know that because it's different than normal.
Okay. But that's, to me, that's one of the best looks in college football, is the orange helmet with the blue jersey and blue pants. I don't mind the orange pants they wear sometimes with that blue top. It looks pretty good too. But
yeah, they've only done that 7 times, and I don't
really
really like it. I think it's kind of ugly. Yeah, they wear the orange pants a lot, but they wear them either with the orange top or the white top most frequently. They've only worn the orange with the blue a handful of times. I'm not a huge fan of it, but a lot of people like it, you know, so.
Yeah. But, you know, uniforms that win you the game. It's, as you say, it's the Jimmy and the Joes and the X's and O's. And I'm taking LSU. I think they win by, I think they cover the spread. I actually think they'll win by about 10. You know, LSU's defense seems like they are, I don't want to say they're back, but they seem like they're back.
They sure do. That's one thing that I don't think really anybody can argue with, is they seem like this is the kind of defense that LSU's supposed to have.
Yeah. To me, it's can Nussmeier not make the crucial turnover? He had a interception on the first I think it was like the first play from scrimmage last week against La Tech. He didn't have one at all against Clemson. He looked really good against Clemson. Can he return to that form? Can he not make the turnover, play a clean game, and can the line hold up to Florida's defensive line? Can they protect Nussmeier? Can they open up some run lanes and get the running game going for the Tigers? And of course, on the flip side, it's the same thing for Florida. Can their offensive line hold up against the LSU front seven? Can they open up the hole?
I think the problem for Florida is, the problem for Billy Napier is, the answer to that is objectively yes. Florida's offensive line can hold up against anybody in the country because they have two last season previous All-Americans and 3 preseason All-Americans. The question, I think, is more appropriately, will they? They can.
Yeah.
We know they can. It's will they, because the offensive line looked a little shaky last week, but I think part of that was, look, Lagway was out basically all spring, basically all fall camp. I'd love to watch Cole Kublik because he does like this film breakdown. He does all the SEC schools, and I was watching that. And when he got to Florida, he was talking about how the tape didn't look as bad as he remembered it looking from the game this past weekend. Lagway only missed about 3 throws, which when you watch the game, it felt like he missed more than that. But yeah, I mean, I think that's a good question on the Florida side. But I think if you're a Florida fan, I think it's frustrating because the answer is yes, they can.
Yeah.
But it's will they,
Yeah, because I know they gave up like 11 pressures on against Long Island. Like, it was apparently they didn't have a good game even against Long Island.
Well,
and that was a game that Florida won.
Yeah.
So
they did though. They did have a good game. So obviously we have to remember in that one, by the middle of the second quarter, starters are out. And in that game, I think they played either 3 or 4 quarterbacks. It might have just been 3. But my point is, in the second half, you're into your 3 and 4 deep. So I don't know that I look at those stats with any power team playing an FCS school with too fine tooth to comb, because those FCS schools, that's their Super Bowl. They want to come and shock the world and do what only a handful have done. And for the power schools, it's typically a glorified scrimmage, and it's an opportunity. It's like an NFL preseason game. It's an opportunity for players who are barely on the roster to prove that they belong. So that's not a huge deal to me. Like if I'm looking at this game, but I mean it's a stat. I just don't know that it's like that significant,
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so all right. So we both got LSU. Quackers got LSU covering. I've got Florida covering but losing. So we'll see. All right. Next on the docket, we've got one of the 2 best games of the weekend, I think. So UGA headed to Tennessee. I'm not going to say a lot about this because I don't really know who either one of these teams are. Everybody's singing Tennessee's praises, and everybody's saying, well, Georgia's, just sort of, treading water at the moment. If history is an indicator, I think Georgia wins by 10, but it is at Neyland, and matchup predictors got Tennessee winning by giving them a 51.5% chance, and then Georgia's a 3.5 point favorite. This is a toss-up. I think Georgia probably wins. I think I can absolutely see Heupel and Aguilar and his guys pulling off the mild upset. So I think for just to keep it interesting, I'll take Tennessee. I'll take Tennessee to win, and that's really all I have because I just think this is just going to be a good game to watch.
Yeah, I thought you were going to take Georgia. So,
well, I was, and I switched at the last minute.
Okay. Since you took Tennessee, I'll take Georgia. I was kind of leaning towards Tennessee, but I mean, I feel the same way. it can kind of go either way. I'll take Georgia. If you want to go to this game, bring your pocketbook though. It's $325 is the lowest get-in price. So
that sounds good. All right, so next is the other really good game of the weekend, and this is a game that I feel like all of these games I don't have a clue what to expect, and so I'm just excited to watch them so I can see what the heck's going to happen. The question is, are Miami and Notre Dame for real, or is Notre Dame's only played one game because for some reason they had a bye week in week 2. And they didn't play week 0, so that was strange to me, but whatever. So they are Texas A&M is headed to South Bend to play Notre Dame. Notre Dame's got a 71.2% chance to win this game. I think that's really high. They're a 6.5-point favorite. You and I have different feelings on Notre Dame. I tend to, and they're not drastically different, but I tend to think a little. I think a little bit more of Notre Dame and Marcus Freeman maybe than you do, based on previous conversations. I will take Notre Dame to win. I will not take Notre Dame to cover because I think Texas A&M is really good and better than number 16 in the country. But that being said, this is another game where it just really wouldn't surprise me if any of the 4 scenarios happen like the Florida LSU game. Blowout on either side, close win on either side. But I'm going to take Notre Dame, but I'm not taking them to cover the spread.
Okay. I mean, I don't have anything against Notre Dame. I like Marcus Freeman. I think he's a really good coach. I think he's quickly establishing himself.
I didn't think anything personally against him. I just the way our conversations have gone. I think it's kind of like Sam Pittman. I think he's better than you think he is, right? So
I don't know. I think he's quickly establishing himself as one of the best in the country in college football.
Okay.
And, I think he can be there for a long time. He's a hard-nosed coach. Believes in discipline. And he's kind of got a Saban-esque feel to him. I'm not saying he's Nick Saban, but he's kind of got that feel to him. He's kind of got that presence on the sidelines. But I'm gonna take Texas A&M this game. I think it's close. I think A&M wins it on a drive at the end of the game. I think King. I forget his first name. The quarterback for A&M. Huh? Haynes King.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that he's going to be the X factor that decides this game. His mobility is what's going to be.
Wait, hold on. Haynes King doesn't play for Texas A&M anymore. It's what's his name? Marcus Reed? Is that his name? Haynes King is like he's either
Reed,
Georgia
Reed,
Tech or he's gone. Marcel.
No, yeah, that's right. Georgia Tech had him last year. I don't know if he's still there or not.
Yeah, I kind of think he is. But so at first I was like, yeah, it's Haynes King, and then I started thinking, I was like, wait, he doesn't play for Texas A&M anymore. So
yeah, they every time they talk about him, they always mention Texas A&M, and it keeps sticking in my head. But yeah, Reed, still very mobile quarterback. In fact, he's the one who beat LSU last year because they were winning the game before he came in, and his mobility just torched him. And I think that's the X factor in this game. So I'm picking Texas A&M.
Georgia Tech, by the way. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but he is still.
No, that's right. I'm thinking final drive. He's going to make 2 or 3 plays that just drops your jaw, and he gets the first down, a big play, gets them downfield, and they win the game on that final drive.
All right, quickly. Arkansas traveling to Oxford to play number 17 Ole Miss. Who you got?
I'm taking Ole Miss in this rivalry game here, and I think they cover.
And just so everyone knows, matchup predictor agrees 73.7% for Ole Miss. 6.5 point favorites. Ole Miss is a 6.5 point favorite. I'm gonna take Arkansas. I like Ole Miss. I like Lane Kiffin. I think he's a good coach. I'm taking Arkansas because I feel like all Sam Pittman has done is avoid being fired. I think first by circumstance and the fact that he really couldn't be fired after that first great year, or the first year that he had that was really good. They've gotten a little better each of the years after that. So I think Ole Miss is a far better team. But I've been to Oxford. It's intimidating is not the word you would use to describe it. So I'll take Arkansas in a close one. So for our final game, and this is important to note. So this is the 13th game that we've talked about tonight. And there are 6 games that Quacker and I agree on, and 6 games that we don't. So this final game is going to determine whether we agree more or disagree more. And good luck, because our final game is the Fighting Vanderbilt Commodores going to Columbia, South Carolina, about an hour down the road from where I am right now, to play the number 11 South Carolina Gamecocks. Both teams are 2-0. South Carolina has a 65.1% chance to win. This is a night game. It's on SEC Network, which I feel like they kind of did them dirty. I mean, the primetime SEC Network crew is good. They're not bad, but this is a sneaky good game. So here's the deal. The line is 3.5. South Carolina is a 3.5 point favorite to win this game. Let me run through the beginnings of the season for these two teams. So Vanderbilt played Charleston Southern, beat them 45-3. Then they played Virginia Tech, and as we said earlier, beat them easily, 44-20. And South Carolina beat Virginia Tech 24-11 on a neutral site, albeit first game of the year. Second game of the year, they played South Carolina State and won by 18, 38-10. But I had a few friends who were at the game who felt like it really took them well into the third quarter to get rolling. I didn't watch the game. I had more important things to do than watch South Carolina and SC State. So conventional wisdom tells you South Carolina figures it out. They win this game. What's funny, though, is, again, we talked about Florida and LSU kind of being mirror images. For a long time, I sort of, and this has changed over the last few years, or over the last 15 or 20. For a long time in my life, I felt like South Carolina and Vanderbilt, albeit both in the East at the time, were kind of the same kind of program. And then Spurrier got there and elevated them to sometimes being on the level of Kentucky and sometimes being well beyond Kentucky. Spurrier had them ranked in the top 10 a handful of times. And now I think that South Carolina has eclipsed both of these programs, Vanderbilt and Kentucky. Again, and I feel like I've said this for every game this week, I don't really know what to expect, except I do expect this one to be a good game. It's at 3.5. I don't even know, no matter what team I pick, I don't even know if I could pick them to cover or not, because everything is so tight on this game. South Carolina is the better team. They were much more highly touted going into the season than was Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt they haven't played anybody, but they do have a common opponent. And Vanderbilt played them on the road. South Carolina played them in a neutral site. I've got South Carolina winning by 10, I think. That's what my gut's telling me. But again, man, I just wouldn't be surprised if Vanderbilt won it. But I gotta be I have to be decisive, so I'm taking South Carolina to win by 10. So South Carolina and the points.
Okay. That common opponent, they're a week apart, right? But the one big difference is the emotion that the South Carolina team had because of the connections between Virginia Tech and South Carolina now because of the Beamers. That was a very hard week for Shane Beamer. He wasn't shy about talking about how hard that was. And it kind of felt like it almost kind of fed into the team a little bit, like that emotion kind of fed into the team a little bit. So I take that with a grain of salt. We've seen a lot of.
I didn't really think about that too much after the game was over, but I think that's a valid point to make.
Yeah. In fact, some of the South Carolina players, because Frank was on the sidelines, with kind of seated, and they walked up to Frank and gave him the game ball. I thought that was really, really cool. But we've seen a lot of the and not just the SEC, just a lot of the top 25 teams kind of slog through these first couple weeks. So it's kind of hard to judge what they are. With that being said, I kind of feel like you do. This is going to be one of those games that it's just impossible to really say this team is objectively better than this one based off of what we've seen on the field so far. I'm leaning towards South Carolina. But, man, Diego Pavia is one of those players. He's just got that it about him. And it's really tempting to pick Vandy. All I can see is the SEC shorts guy, with the crown and the cape and all the stuff and the music playing. But I think I'm gonna take South Carolina. I'm gonna pick up the cover, but the cover is 3.5. So if they win by 4, they've covered. I think they'll win by a touchdown. But I like you. I feel like this is going to be a very close game, a very good game.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting. I do think it's going to be a much more fun game than is typical of games like this. So, all right. So that means that 7 of the games, Quacker and I are in agreement. 6 of them we are not. So just to run through them quickly, Quacker is taking Texas over UTEP, FIU over FAU, Oklahoma over Temple, Miami over USF, Old Dominion over Virginia Tech, ECU over Coastal, Clemson over Georgia Tech, Pittsburgh over West Virginia, LSU over Florida, Georgia over Tennessee, Texas A&M over Notre Dame, Ole Miss over Arkansas, and South Carolina over Vanderbilt. Notre Dame over Texas A&M, Ole Miss over Arkansas, and like Quacker, I am taking South Carolina to beat Vanderbilt. All right. Any final thoughts? Going to be a fun weekend.
Yeah. Now, one game that we're kind of keeping an eye on. It was played tonight. NC State and Wake Forest. It was close. Wake Forest lost in the second half, 34-24 to NC State. So that was one we were kind of keeping an eye on. They were both undefeated going in. Conference matchup in a rivalry game. So NC State with the big rivalry win tonight. So congratulations, Wolfpack.
Yep. Yeah, I was actually just checking the score a minute ago, and I realized that the game was already over, and I didn't even notice that it had ended. So, all right. So, where can people find you? Where can people find the show?
You can find the show on Facebook at Alderman House Podcast. You can find us on X at Alderman House Pod. You can find me on X at Muddy Quacker.
And you can find me at MATTHEWWWBROWN. That is Matthew with 2 extra W's. Brown, like the color, on X. Hey, guys, thank you so much for joining us. Enjoy this awesome week of college football, and we will see you Sunday night for the Week 3 recap.